Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Sports 101 podcast. On this edition of the Sports 101 podcast, we have a bunch of stuff to get into. We will talk about some basketball, we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll talk about Jerry Jones. But the biggest story of the day, and we're going to start our show with this story, which is Dan Snyder and the Washington football team, and the Washington Post came out with another article talking about the same issue, the same culture issue, the same problems that they wrote about in the last article, which is about a month ago, I believe. They came out and said, look, those things that we mentioned on that article, we now have the evidence showing, linking Dan Snyder, who's the owner of the Washington football team, linking him to the problems. Basically saying he's the cause of the problems. Okay? This has nothing to do with the name. This has nothing to do with the fact that the Washington football team can't find a new name for itself. But this has something to do with the cheerleaders. And the fact is, the Washington Post came out and said, look, we have the videos of the cheerleaders being taped. We have the tapes. What the Washington football team was doing was taping the cheerleaders, sending it to the team announcer, and the team announcer sends to the owner, Dan Snyder. Before I get into this issue even more and let you listen to an interview that one of the journalists that is heading this investigation, he gave a interview on 106.7 The Fan today, and basically said what I said in the beginning of the show, which is we have the video, we were given the video, we saw the video, and couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe that there is a video. We couldn't believe that we got the video. And trust me, this is the end of Dan Snyder in Washington. Because, just because of the fact that the Washington football team is a problem in the NFL. Dan Snyder is being a big problem for the NFL. And the NFL does not want this kind of problem within it. And look, the NFL is going to be forced to force Dan Snyder to sell this team. There's no way that Dan Snyder is going to be the owner for a long time. It's going to be short-lived. Trust me. And look, if the NFL gets involved, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Why do you think that the NFL let go of the first report when Dan Snyder fired the team announcer and said, I have made changes. We have fixed our culture. The NFL thought that was the end. The NFL thought it was over then. But it's not over. It's even worse. It's even worse than the NFL thought it was going to be. Because of this article that the Washington Post released, I think Roger Goodell, as the commissioner of the NFL, is going to be forced to be involved and ask Dan Snyder to release the team, sell the team. And you know what? It's better for the Washington football fan, sports fan. Because the only team that I know in Washington that has not won a thing except it's the Wizards and the Washington football team. The Capitals have won before. The Nationals have won. The only two teams that have not won are the Wizards and the Washington Redskins. I mean, the Washington football team. Who, by the way, cannot come up with a name. So, this is going to shake up things in Washington. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you listen to an interview that one of the reporters from the Washington Post, who is in charge of this investigation report, gave an interview today on 106.7 The Fan, which is a local sports radio, and had this to say.
Was able to go on record and at least open the door. How many of the other women now that have come forward, and in this piece that you all detailed, did any of them bring up the fact that Emily coming forward kind of made it easier for them to tell their stories? Because obviously, again, you all have ended up with tremendous detail in this story here that after the first one, everybody said, hey, Dan Snyder doesn't appear to be directly linked. That's not the case this time around. How did this come about?
Right, yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I think Emily's decision to go on the record in that first story had an impact, and some of the women actually kind of expressed a little bit of guilt to us that they didn't come forward sooner and that they hadn't gone on the record sooner, but they saw her sort of standing up there by herself and wanted to give her strength in numbers.
Journalistically, you're telling their story. You are their voice. When you're putting this story together, how many times do you maybe write something and then go back and rewrite it because you're just trying to capture what they're telling you as perfectly as possible? Because again, your words in print are their voice here.
Right. I mean, a number of times, and it's a collaborative process. I had two great colleagues in Beth Reinhardt and Liz Clark, who were on this effort, and a handful of great editors. So it's not as simple as just words go on the page and then out on the paper.
When you guys have talked to so many people here, as this information starts to come together, and you can start to really believe it. I mean, without lack of a better phrase, when you start believing what these women are telling you and you're corroborating all of this, is there any time to think to yourself, like, wow, I can't believe this is going on, or do you just have to maintain that laser focus of trying to write this and do this and put this whole thing together? Because to me, in this story, we're starting to see more specific detail here with so many different people, and of course it does involve the owner, so it really takes it even to a higher level here. Can you even allow yourself to go, wow, this is really extraordinary what occurred here behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, what we do have to do is just kind of continually take a step back after each individual new interview with somebody and just try to take a look at, like, from a 30,000-yard view, like, what's the big picture here? What are we seeing sort of come together? And yeah, we had some wholly bleak moments in the reporting process here. I mean, the video, the cheerleader, nudity highlight video, that was a rumor we'd heard about for a few days, and we actually had spoken to somebody on background who was unwilling to go on the record about their knowledge of these videos, and then within 24 hours, serendipitously, a tipster had dropped the two of these files into a link and sent it to us, and then we went from despair of thinking there's this really damning anecdote out there, but we actually have the videos now. Now we know they exist. Now we just need to go figure out who ordered these up and who knew about it.
And how was that process trying to get people to, I mean, once you get the video, obviously you see people on the video, to get any of them to be willing to, go forward and talk about this? Because obviously, let's face it, I mean, the video is the smoking gun here. I mean, it's one of the biggest portions of all of this chaos we have talked about and detailed over the past few weeks. But when that fell in your hand, at that point, what is the modus operandi for you all to try and secure people to talk about that video and go on record to be able to talk about it, as eventually you did?
Well, I mean, it's just a pretty simple process of going through the staff roster and contacting everybody who would have had knowledge of any video of this type in the years that they were produced, and then then getting the folks who we did get to and convince them to talk to us. And that was a difficult process, because for the people who had knowledge of these videos, we didn't find anybody who was proud of their involvement or knowledge of this. I think that this came from a deep source of shame, and the former staffer Brad Baker, who did ultimately agree to go on a record with us, has long felt guilty that he was aware that this thing happened. He didn't speak up at the time, but you got to look at it from his perspective. He was a young, low-level video employee, probably making $30-35 grand a year, who observes from his perspective the team broadcaster ordering up an unauthorized softcore porn of the cheerleaders for the owner. So what's he going to do? Like, go to HR and file a complaint against Larry Michael and Dan Snyder? But that's the position that some of these staffers were in, and that's part of the reason why this stuff has stayed uncovered for so long.
Obviously, you all got a denial from Larry on the record. Did you get anything more from him, or other than basically a brief denial, and that was basically it? Because at least you got him to at least go on the record deny any involvement in this as it pertains to that video.
Just that, Larry claims that he has no knowledge of these videos, and doesn't really have an explanation for why these multiple employees from 2 different years are saying that they were ordered to make these videos, by him. And all I can say to that is that we've spoken to folks who worked alongside the folks who had knowledge of these videos, and they said unanimously, these were good people. They would not have done something like this unless they were ordered to by their bosses.
You mentioned Brad Baker's involvement and maybe some guilt on his part. Are you finding more people that you're coming across as this investigation continues? And I imagine you all aren't done. I imagine at some point you're probably going to have something else down the road here as this investigation continues. Are you finding more employees, though, like him, who do have that sense of guilt, like, hey, they feel really bad about not coming forward sooner, but at least now, at least getting that out on the table, they feel like they're at least helping those who were wronged going forward here at least?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of that. I think, the way our story ends with the reason why a lot of these folks are coming forward now, not before, is because of what happened in 2018 when Brian Lafamina and his team briefly gave a lot of younger staffers some hope that perhaps there was going to be a cultural change there. And the backstory for our involvement is that we tried to do these stories 2 years ago, but Lafamina was still there, and there were a lot of young employees who, a lot of veteran employees who felt like, well, maybe things are about to turn the corner here. I'm not going to talk to the paper about this. And then, that December, Dan fired Brian and then cleaned house, and that led to a mass exodus of employees. And I think for the alumni network for this team, a lot of folks who had held their tongues are now this year, as we're reaching back out, more interested in talking to us.
Do you feel, at least based on your discussions with people when Brian Lafamina was shown the door, that those who may have clung to a little bit of hope felt basically defeated at that point, that if Brian couldn't help the situation? Because we had him in studio multiple times here at the radio station, and each time we couldn't come away feeling better about the direction that he was trying to take the team from a business standpoint. But did those folks maybe feel like, okay, that was our last chance at victory? We've essentially lost, and it's time to go at that point?
Absolutely. No, and that I think that pretty much captures it. And that's, part of the reason why we wanted to end the story there is to a lot of former employees that just speaks to kind of what they believe is sort of the hypocrisy of what what Dan Snyder is trying to say now, that I want a new culture. Their response is, you had an opportunity to do culture 2 years ago, but you fired the guy because he was costing you money. You didn't like the long-term season ticket plan of trying to build a local season ticket base versus just taking money from Eagles and Cowboys and Giants fans who are happy to buy tickets up on the resale market right now.
You mentioned the holy asterisk moments. Was it a bigger holy asterisk moment to get the video, or what you saw in the video?
To get the video. Look, candidly, as one of the two guys on this reporting project, I felt a little guilty reviewing the video as part of my reporting, because it's clear these women did not know that this footage would ever see the light of day. But we needed to do it to identify who they were and to contact them. Candidly, I asked, and they were happy to. My female colleagues were happy to perform those interviews, because I didn't want to be the one informing these women that, team executives might have passed around a video of you nude, and by the way, I just watched it also. These women felt deeply violated. They feel deeply violated. And, I think there is the potential for legal fallout here for the team and, for current and former executives who may have been involved with the production of these videos.
Will Hobson of the Washington Post joining us, our final moments with him. Will, when you're in your discussions with them, again, most of the time, people that end up involved in situations like this essentially feel trapped and don't have a way out. In several of the cases, though, as we've seen with cheerleaders, quote, per se, around the league, many of them are either very weakly compensated or are not compensated at all. Just the fact that you're, associated with, in this case, the Washington football franchise, is supposed to be, big enough for you and help you along in your career. But did many of them still have that trapped feeling like, hey, there's nowhere I could go, so I might as well go along, with the chicanery that clearly was going on at this time?
I think that helplessness was certainly felt by a lot of the women in the front office and the sales force, who felt like these daily overtures they were receiving were just something they just had to deal with as part of the job. The cheerleaders drew kind of an interesting line of demarcation in their heads between the team and the team executives and the cheerleading universe. And, they feel there's a very strong sense of sisterhood there. There's a very strong sense of alumni. And, Tiffany Skirby, the main, one of the main characters in this story, who has that allegation against Dan, she continues to this day to have a volunteer role with the team's cheerleaders, even with her allegations involving Dan and how he treated her, according to her, because she feels very strongly about that community and what they do.
The irony is they're told no fraternization with the players. Unfortunately, the people that made those rules weren't following the same lines, it clearly appears here. I will ask you this. Is there going to be more? Do you anticipate being more? I can't imagine that you all are even done as of right now.
Yeah, I can't predict what's going to pop into my inbox later today or tomorrow, but certainly if there's more reporting to be done, we're very much interested in doing it.
Well, great stuff, as always. Congratulations to you and all the folks over there at the Post again. Terrific detailing on a very difficult story. Appreciate the time today.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Look, this thing, we're back live right now. This thing it's gonna go to a court. Somebody is gonna sue Dan Snyder and the Washington football team and the people who have anything to do with this problem, with this story, meaning the people who saw this happen and not say anything, the people up top. This is going to go to court because as you just heard, they didn't know that their video was going from the team announcer to the owner, Dan Snyder. And the thing about Dan Snyder is this, okay? Dan Snyder does not want somebody to tell him what to do. That's why he fired a guy, as you just heard from the interview, a guy who was going to fix his problem, a guy who was going to fix the problem of fans not coming in and watching the game. The only time you see a big sale, a whole lot of tickets being sold, are Dallas versus Washington, Eagles versus Washington, sometimes Giants versus Washington. The fans here do not want to see the Washington football team play. They do not want to spend their money to see something that is not worth watching. And I also have another interview that Emily Applegate gave to ESPN after she came out and said basically the culture in Washington is not good. There are a bunch of people who are not willing to come out and talk about it because either they work there or either they work there or they're told that they can't say anything because they are new people. They get $40,000 a year and they are not where they need to be, and they're not gonna come out and tell the media about what's going on and put themselves out of a job. This is what she said to ESPN when she was asked, why did you come out and talk about it? What was the reason for you to come out and talk about Dan Snyder and the problem and the culture within the Washington football team?
You among them, obviously. You were the only one who was named. The other 14, some of them have non-disclosure agreements. Some were fearful of litigation. Why did you come forward to speak to the Post, and why did you agree to have your name used?
For me, I don't work in sports anymore. I don't have the intention of ever doing that again. So I can understand a lot of my former coworkers that are still in the industry, that they don't want to come forward or it's just not a right time for them. But for me, it was a really easy decision. I want to be able to make some kind of change, and I can't do that unless I just put it all out there.
Emily, in that Washington Post story, you talked about being verbally abused by your boss, Mitch Gershman. What do you think Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen, has for the culture that is described in that story?
I mean, I think it starts from the top and it trickles down. So these are people that he hired. These are people that he let run his organization. So if, you're allowing this kind of behavior to happen, it's not a good look for you. And I saw an apology that went out to the current employees of the team. It seems a little misdirected. I think there's at least 15 women that deserve an apology of some sort. And I'm sure there's countless others that didn't get a chance to tell their stories.
Emily, that letter from Dan Snyder, signed by Dan Snyder and his wife Tanya to team employees saying they're sad and disappointed, wanting to apologize to each of you. There was that letter. There was also the statement from Dan Snyder saying they were hiring a law firm to look into the accusations in the Post story. What's your reaction to that decision, and also to the NFL saying that it would wait to take any action against the team until that investigation is completed?
I mean, I hope that they move forward with it. I feel sometimes so imagine just being called stupid on a daily basis and then also almost in the same breath being hit on for your appearance. It's a miserable
is the interview that Emily Abogate gave to ESPN after coming out and saying that the culture within the Washington football team is bad. And as you heard her describe the way that employees treat people, especially women, within the team, it's bad. I mean, there is no way that the NFL can sit back and watch this. By the way, as you heard on the interview, there are 14 other women who came out and said the culture out there, the culture in Washington is not good. It needs to get fixed. And there needs to be an investigation. Look, Dan Snyder, at that point, this is before the second article, which came out today, surfaced. Before today's article by the Washington Post, that the interview that you heard was before that. Of course, Dan Snyder is going to come out and apologize. Of course, Dan Snyder is going to come out and say, we're sorry, we apologize, we are going to investigate, and we're gonna figure out what happened, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this thing. Because if he doesn't say that and apologize, what came out today would have came out earlier. Okay? But after what came out today, after today's article by the Washington Post, the NFL commissioner cannot sit back and say, look, we're going to wait until the investigation comes out, until the investigation is done and the results come out. No, Dan Snyder needs to go now. Dan Snyder and everybody who had something to do with this horrible, horrible situation need to go. It's not only good for the NFL, but it's also good for the Washington football team and for the Washington football fan. Because trust me, the Washington football team have not produced anything. And I will touch bases right now about that, about the on the field situation. Okay, look, if you now work for the Washington football team and you were brought in, Ron Rivera, for example, okay, he was fired from Carolina because Carolina was stupid enough to hire a brand new head coach from Baylor, which is a crazy idea to bring in a brand new head coach and pay him all that money and fire Ron Rivera. But if you're Ron Rivera right now, you're pissed off. You're angry. Because you thought this was going to be a new beginning for you. But it ended up being a bigger problem that you do not need. So, for me, the problem is going to get fixed when Dan Snyder is forced to sell the team. Like what happened in basketball a couple of years ago, where the owner was forced to sell a team because of the way he was treating people. Okay? That's the only fix. That's the only fix for this problem. We will get into other stuff right now. The other thing I want to talk about is the Clippers. The Clippers won a game today, and they're up. Yesterday night they won yesterday night's game and are up 3-2 on the Dallas Mavericks. And here is the head coach of the Clippers talking about that.
Sidelines and above the arc. Wanted to ask what went into that decision and how you thought that went.
I thought it went well. We just overall the intensity defensively was so much more attentive. Through the series, we've made just a lot of game plan mistakes with our switching, with our trapping. We actually did trap them in games previous. It was just so poor. It was hard to notice. I thought Rex and Ty, Lou, both of them just did a terrific job, just game planning and mixing it up. We didn't just have one coverage, which I thought was important. I just thought we played harder and we played right and we played with a great spirit.
Next is Hey Doc, Paul just said in the post-game interview that he was in a pretty dark place.
You lose a lot of games, and the game the other night was tough. Usually you go home to your family. You go home. Here you go back to your rooms, and you're with each other, and then you actually see the other teams. And it's just a strange thing, man. I tell you, it's just different. And I thought our guys are great, though. PG and I sat in my room after the game, and we just had a long talk. Not all about basketball, really. Several players did it. Guys are knocking on his door. This team's, we're growing still. You can see it. We've not had the normal time together like most teams. And so, things like that, they happen. And I thought our guys are just proud of all the players. As far as the other situation, it's just so sad. What stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention, and they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. It's just really sad. We got to do better. But we got to demand better. Like, it's funny. We protest, and they send riot guards, right? They send people in riot outfits. They go to Michigan with guns, and they're spitting on cops, and nothing happens. The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard. Like, to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged. You need to be American and outraged. And how dare the Republicans talk about fear? We're the ones that need to be scared. We're the ones having to talk to every black child. What white father has to give his son a talk about being careful if you get pulled over? It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you. You want to get back to basketball?
Coach, can I have a follow-up on that?
Yeah.
Real quick. I mean, there's been footage that the Celtics sort of win, you play now, like you said,
I think we play. One thing I'd say, I think you always play. You know why? We can fight for justice, but we still should do our jobs. I really believe that. Because doing our jobs, people are seeing excellence from Americans, black Americans and white Americans. So I would still do my job. That's just my opinion. But if my players told me no, it'd be no. I can tell you that. It's when you watch that video, it's sickening. It's sickening. His kids were in the car. How do they ever get that out of their mind? How are those kids ever normal?
You've been about deciding work not work hard. What would your message be to players who are in this situation, weighing these kinds of questions?
My message is go after your dreams. You don't allow anything to take you away from your dreams. Doing the Donald Sterling thing, Matt Barnes and Chris Paul, DJ and Blake and all those guys, JJ Redick, they all pulled together. And at the end of the day, the one thing we decided when we were little kids and we were in the backyard by ourselves and we had these dreams about winning the championship, Donald Sterling was not in our dreams, and neither were these cops. And so they're not going to take anybody. They're not taking our dreams away. All right? And so that would be my message.
I have a few questions here, like on Zoom.
Doc, it feels a bit wrong to go back to basketball.
No, it's what we do. Like, I should be talking about basketball, and so it's what we do.
Do you feel like the team connected more emotionally? You talked about being emotionally weak last game. Did you feel like the team really connected on that level today?
Yeah, we did all things well today. Tomorrow, we just played together. We played hard. We were aggressive. And more importantly, like, it is a human game and you make mistakes. But we just had so few game plan mistakes that I thought it was awesome.
Next.
But it's one game.
Sorry. Next is Miriam.
Thanks for sharing thoughts and congrats on the win.
Thanks.
Obviously, you said you want to play, and obviously excellence, but there was a lot of excellence today. But how hard is it for you to focus on game planning in the playoffs when troubling stuff is happening?
It's because we have to, like, our jobs we are basketball players, we're fathers, we're businessmen, and we should still be able to do our jobs. But it's hard sometimes. Like, today was hard. It really was for everybody, every team. But I still think, like, when we can't stop doing our jobs because it's what we do. And it allows us, honestly, 3 hours of solitude. Like, it does. Once we're on stage, we can kind of get in our jobs and forget what's going on. So I think that's it.
Next is Dan.
Kind of along the solitude lines, I think Trez played 5 minutes in the first quarter or something like that. He might have only had 2 points, but the way you greeted him when he came out the court was a genuine, like, you seemed really happy with that stretch.
Yeah.
What did you like so much about that? And did you feel like he kind of finally looked a little bit sort of like himself?
Yeah, I told him I was proud of him because I think he had 2 points, right? But he made a difference. And I think, Trez is still young, right? And so when you come back, you're not in great shape. I think you put so much pressure on scoring. Score points that can do everything. And, he just needed that. So I was just happy that he helped our team without scoring. And that's what I was telling him.
Cam?
Hey, Coach, I appreciate that passion, that energy that you just conveyed there. And I think that's what your players played with tonight that helped you guys get that big win. I would like to ask you, Doc, if you could expound on when you had to first have that conversation with your son about driving, being safe, and kind of getting with the law that, as you mentioned, some other people don't have to have that conversation. Can you touch on that for me?
Yeah, basically when they get their driver's license, all of them. I have an adopted child. You just share with them, be careful, show your hands, be respectful. It's funny though, even through that sometimes you still get shot. So, I don't know, it's just really tough.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. All right. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
So that was the interview that Dan Sterling, that the LA Clippers head coach gave after the game. The score was 154-111. Dallas lost the game, and the Clippers do have a 3-2 or 4-3 lead, and the Dallas Mavericks are in danger of losing this series. Look, the Clippers are a good team. As you heard on the interview, they just didn't have time to play together because of injuries, because of players being out. stuff like that. And this time is for players is different than others. I just want to stick to sports. I know he went into politics and everything. I don't want to get into that. This is a sports podcast. I'm staying in sports, but sticking to sports. This is a different time because of the way that the virus is and the way that the NBA has came back to play the end of the NBA season. You're not going home, as you heard on the interview. The players are going back to their hotel rooms, and you're seeing the team that you played beat or lost to. So this is different, and you're not getting to go home. You're not getting to go to your families. The Dallas Mavericks, I think, need to play better. They need to shoot better. They need to defend better. The Clippers, I think, came out and took a good lead at first. The Dallas Mavericks had a 19-0 run and lost it and never got it back. The Clippers were the better team last night. The Clippers came out to play last night, and that's why the Clippers won the game last night. This is what the Dallas Mavericks head coach had to say after the game.
Improvement Association board member. His home was bombed, presumably by the KKK. He was out of his house. He was at an event with Rosa Parks. He and his family were at an event with Rosa Parks. He was an early civil rights activist. He was a white pastor at an all-black congregation, and so the KKK didn't like that. They bombed his house in 1956, and then they bombed it again in 1957. Robert Grace is still alive today. He's 92 years old, so he survived it, and he's still he's still an activist, even though he's an older fellow now. So, pretty interesting story.
Start with questions, Coach. We'll start in the room with Brad.
Yeah, go ahead.
As much detail as you can explain how Porzingis went from questionable to being ruled out so early in the day.
We just told Scott he's out. Boom, just like that.
What led to that?
He's not able to play tonight. You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing with him right now. Can't get into details. Trying to move it in a direction to see if he could be available for Game 6. But the bottom line, the short answer is just not available tonight. And to even attempt to play him or talk about it would be the wrong thing. So, you know, we're moving from day to day. He's doing a little bit better each day, but beyond that, there's nothing I can really tell you.
Mark?
I mean, look, we could have said he was doubtful, but what's the point? I mean, you know, he's out, and so, you know, that's where we are today. And look, we'll hope things keep moving in a good direction come tomorrow, and then see where we are Thursday.
I guess Lucas made his rise these past 2 seasons. What's been your sense of what makes him tick as a player, a leader, teammate?
Yeah, his number one thing is to win. That's what he's always been about. If you look at his career with Real Madrid, I don't know much about his career before that. He was very young. He was 12 or 13 years old, before that. He just he's wired to find a way to win the game. Whether it's a drill in practice, whether it's some kind of a game in practice where you're working on one specific aspect of your offense or defense. Like Jason Kidd, he will find the one little thing that he and his teammates can do to help win that drill. That's how I see him being wired. As a leader, he's just he's risen, week by week, month by month, over 2 years. The ball's in his hands. It's his team. I've told him that. And his job is to play the game to the best of his ability, make his teammates as good as they can be, and give the players around him confidence. And he did those things in Game 4.
Renee, I have one more in the room from Joe Vard, and then you can take it away with Zoom.
What did he do yesterday and today? I mean, with all those minutes, the ankle being one of those.
Yesterday we had a meeting, and we had an optional court work for guys that wanted to go, guys that were low minutes. So he did not do anything on the court yesterday. And then today, he did some light shooting this morning.
Hey, Mark Falwell.
Hey, Rick, it's understandably been on the mind of a lot of people in the bubble and those of us back here. Did you as a team this morning have a chance to talk much and share much about the Jacob Blake situation?
Well, this morning was one of the few days we did not have a team meeting. We had it yesterday because we wanted to keep our minds on the series. It would have been easy to just to get away yesterday. But we wanted to stay on task, talk about some things that we can do better, and just try to stay focused. And ironically, today was a day when we did not have a meeting before we got on the bus, and it was an optional shoot around anyway. So there wasn't really a formal meeting situation, but it's an absolutely horrible, hideous situation. I mean, I saw the images on TV today, the video. It's just beyond dreadful, and I just don't have words to describe, the feeling of watching it. I mean, I'm sure just about everybody has seen it now. 7 shots in the back while he's getting in the car with 3 kids in there. It's just, it's the unthinkable. But these things have happened all too often, and they keep happening, and that's why, that's why we're talking so much about racial justice here.
Hey, Eddie.
Rick, along those lines, you guys are providing entertainment, great entertainment, by the way, for a society that really needs it right now. How do you balance that responsibility with what everybody's talking about in the real world and what really matters in life? I mean, it seems like a kind of it's a tough situation to justify certain things.
It certainly does. And, coming into this, so much of the conversation about whether in some of my conversations with the Players Association. This really happened because it was an opportunity to play the game we love. More importantly, it was a platform to really talk about the things that have been going on in the world, from George Floyd on back. And then, the recent thing with Jacob Blake is just another, it's just a horrible gut punch. And so there's a lot of conversation about a lot of things right now, understandably so. But, I said this today on a Zoom call with TNT. The importance of basketball is calendar every day is to face those injustices, going back 400 plus years. Try to reckon with them, understand, talk about it, try to heal. And then you turn around and then there's another one. So it's very, very difficult.
Okay, last one is going to be Andrew with the LA Times.
Hey, Rick, before the series began, Luka was talking about the challenge of the Clippers defense, and he rattled off, some of the defenders we all think of, Kawhi and Paul George, but he also called Ivica Zubac an underrated defender. I'm just curious, from your view, do you see Zubac, as young as he is, changing what they can do defensively with his interior defense?
Well, he's been a significant factor in the series around the basket. And really, it started with one of the seeding games we played against them. He went 10 for 10 from the floor. That was a game we did not do a good job defensively, keeping a body on him and in our coverages. We've done a better job on him in really good. And defensively, as a big body that moves his feet deceptively well, he's been a factor at the defensive end as well. And so, I don't know his exact age, but I know he's a very young player. He's gotten exponentially better in the last year. They've done a great job with him, and he is a significant factor in this series.
So that was the interview that the Dallas Mavericks head coach gave at the end of last night's game. Before we finish our podcast, I have one more topic I want to talk about, but before we get into that, I want to talk about the Mavericks. And look, if Mavericks want to win the series and go on to the next opponent, they need to be able to keep leads. They need to be able to score more. They need to be able to get their three trees down. They need to do more. I feel like in yesterday's game, they were not able to keep their leads. They were not able to keep their 19-0 run. They gave up 3-pointers. They gave up buckets. They need to keep up scoring, and they need to be able to keep their leads. The last story that we have today has to do with Jerry Jones and what he said yesterday, and the times that we are in right now, and with the things going on today with police and African American people. Jerry Jones said that we'll talk about the situation and I will talk to my players and try to do what we did in the beginning, which was kneel before the national anthem. I think, and Jerry Jones was being torn apart on the sports media today by ESPN and Fox Sports. I think Jerry Jones needs to leave this to the players. I think the day to negotiate with the players has came and gone. Okay? Jerry Jones, with the first interview that he did after him being away for like a month or two, he said this, quote, "That was then and this is now." So Jerry Jones, in my book, in my opinion, needs to just let the players do what they do. Stay out of it. Because if you don't, it's going to come back to hunt you. The players are not going to be happy to negotiate with you. Back then, yes, they were happy to negotiate with you and negotiated to kneel before the anthem. And the thing you have to understand is Jerry Jones is not from this time. Jerry Jones is not used to this. Jerry Jones is old and he has known the old times. That's why Jerry Jones is saying what he's saying. He means well, though. Don't blame him because he's from back then. But Jerry Jones, you need to stay out of it. Because the players are not going to negotiate with you. The players are not going to be happy with you. That's my take. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking. Until next time, peace out. Episodes will be up each and every single day, 5 times a week at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking. Until next time, peace out.